How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 1.
Greetings, conversationalists. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here across the fruited plain. I am delighted to have you with me. The phone number is 877-973-7425. If you want to be on the program today, I'm happy to have you. Likewise, if you text Eric, E-R-I-C-K, to 33777, you can get the show notes, the live stream, the podcast. You should be getting the show notes because as this thing comes into the final week, we'll be keeping you up to date. I will be pushing out some additional pieces this week. Normally I do one in the morning, then we do the show notes and a video in the afternoon. But as news is breaking this week, I will keep you up to speed with what's happening. I want to start with this. We are 7 days away from this election. If you weren't here yesterday, I want to caution you again about something that is very important to understand. On Election Day, exit polling will be released in 3 waves. There's a morning wave, there's an afternoon wave, and an evening wave. You cannot read anything into the exit polling in the morning and the afternoon, or even the evening exit polling individually. And the reason is because when the evening exit polls come out, what the pollsters do is they realign the statistical sampling. So you get raw data in the morning and the afternoon based on the people they've interviewed. But in the evening, what they will do is they will find out how many black people voted, how many white people voted, how many Hispanic people voted, how many men, how many women, how many old people, how many young people, and they will readjust their exit polling based on who actually voted. So they're essentially getting in raw information, and then they statistically adjust it. Now, for those of you who are skeptical of this, I'm not a statistician, but I will tell you, Republicans and Democrats alike agree that exit polling in this country is still very good data. They've had problems in the past. They readjusted it. But the 2020 exit polling, the 2022, even the 2016 exit polling and 2018 exit polling was pretty on point. It's different from an opinion poll. The reason it's different from an opinion poll is that the exit pollsters identify the swing precincts around the country, thousands of swing precincts, and they hire people to go to those precincts with the cooperation of the local elections boards. They stand outside and they ask questions of voters who are either going into or leaving the polls, and they're not allowed to ask who they voted for, but they ask about their feelings, their issues, what motivated them to vote. And you get a pretty good sense of where the election is headed based on those things. Now, they're doing this right now in early voting locations around the country as well. If you're not asked by them, that doesn't mean they're ignoring you. It means they're doing it based on the populations and demographics of a precinct. So if a precinct is, for example, 80% Asian American and you're white, they're going to ask a couple of white people in that precinct, but they're overwhelmingly going to focus on Asian Americans because that's that precinct's demographic composition, and it's based on the way people are voting in those precincts. They have an entire methodology they use that everybody, Republicans, Democrats, rely on. Everybody tends to trust it. But the point is, until the evening exit polling is adjusted statistically based on those demographics, you're going to start hearing people at noon say, oh my gosh, 90% of the people who are voting say that they are voting because of threats to democracy. Well, that just happens to be that the people in those 3 hours who voted were voting on that issue. It doesn't mean anything. It might have only been a couple thousand people nationwide during those times. So you're going to get disproportionate weight to that. So you got to be real cautious on Election Day. Now, in these last 7 days, it's all about motivating your voters and suppressing the other side's vote. When we talk about voter suppression, it's always treated as a very dirty thing. It's a political tactic both sides use. The Democrats are trying to find ways to convince Republican-leaning voters don't go vote for Trump. Republicans are trying to find ways to convince maybe Democratic-leaning or Trump-skeptical voters not to go vote for Harris. Both sides do it. The worry, the concern, the desire is that both sides, any little mistake they make could hurt them. That's why the Tony Hinchcliffe statements about Puerto Rico mattered on Sunday. It's not about the diehard Trump supporter. There's no Trump supporter in America who's going to hear his statements, his jokes about black people and watermelons, Puerto Rico being an island of garbage, and say, well, I'm not voting for Trump. No Trump supporter is going to be turned off by that. The question is, the people who still haven't made up their mind, the people who are deciding at the very end, the people who are like, can I really go through with voting for him? I mean, sure, the economy's better, but oh my gosh, the drama, really? There are those people out there. You can't deny it. Some of you know them. That's the danger here. You're playing at the margins. Here's what I know from talking to the experts, the people I trust, Democrats and Republicans alike. Some of the experts that I am talking to, and let me define experts. Experts are people, by virtue of their political acumen, their background, and their profession, understand how to analyze the early vote, understand where both sides are coming from. They're Democrats and Republicans. They understand the motivating factors. They understand the detailed inside polling, the insider polling that you're not seeing. They're in conversations with the campaigns or they're on the campaigns. Here's what they say. The Democrats are slightly more encouraged right now than the Republicans. It's true. I know. Republicans publicly and Republicans on social media seem to think that they're on the verge of winning. I myself feel like the momentum is headed towards Trump. Here's what the Democrats say. The Democrats say that their turnout operation is so far superior to the Republican turnout operation that they are having success going door to door, particularly in minority communities, playing videos on the doorstep on an iPad of all the obnoxious things Donald Trump and his supporters have said and convincing that person to go vote. In many cases, driving those people to go vote. They're having very good success in Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania. The Democrats are a little more upbeat than they have been in the last week. Democrats feel like there's been a momentum shift that hasn't been detected in the polling. Democrats believe that their ground game is superior to the Republican ground game. And Democrats believe that Trump and his supporters are their own worst enemy. And people at the end who were thinking of going to Trump have decided based on the last week that actually it's too much drama. I can't do it. That's what the Democrats say. Here's what the Republicans tell me. The Republicans tell me if the Democratic ground game was as good as they say it is, they should be killing Republicans in the early vote, and they're not. Republicans are leading by 5 points in Nevada still today. There's been a wave of early votes coming into Clark County, that's Las Vegas, overnight. The Republican lead is still at 5.3%. There are over 55 to 60 million people who have voted. The Democrats in Florida have fallen further behind. In North Carolina, Kamala Harris has canceled all of her remaining TV ad buys and pulled the money out of the market. That's a big tell that the Democrats think North Carolina is lost. Now, some Democrats will say that means they think that they've won it. Here's the problem for the Democrats who say pulling the money in North Carolina means Kamala Harris thinks it's in the bag. You as a candidate in a swing state never think you have it in the bag. That's not how campaigns operate. Additionally, Republicans in North Carolina are now leading Democrats in the early vote. For perspective, the last time Republican-identified voters led the Democrats in the early vote of North Carolina was George W. Bush's reelection against John Kerry in 2004. So when you combine the fact that Republicans are outpacing Democrats in North Carolina, and Kamala Harris has just canceled all remaining TV and radio ad buys in North Carolina, that suggests the Democrats believe it's now off the table. Keep in mind, Republicans are outpacing Democrats at a time that you have massive devastation in western North Carolina. Democrats concurrently are hanging their hat on women are outpacing men, and they're encouraged by that. But when you look at where Kamala Harris is redeploying her resources, she's pulling it out of North Carolina. Where's she putting them? Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania in particular. She's upping her ad buys in Philadelphia. They've deployed more ground resources to Philadelphia. She's campaigning more in Philadelphia. And Democrats are still saying that the Republicans are putting on a really strong showing in Philadelphia. Donald Trump is out complaining about potential theft in Illinois and voter fraud in Illinois, but the Democrats are panicking about, I keep saying Illinois, Pennsylvania. The Republicans are warning about vote theft in Pennsylvania. Kamala Harris's team is warning her that she's not doing enough to keep Republicans from voting, and she's not doing enough to get Democrats out to vote. So where's my gut in this? Here's my gut, and it can be wrong. I don't think there's been a massive momentum shift to the Democrats. I don't think it's been detectable. I don't see it. And I think that the Democrats behind the scenes, while they're boasting about their ground game, they're privately still fretting. I am concerned in Pennsylvania about the Republican vote in Pennsylvania. I am concerned about the Republican ground game. When I talk to Republicans in Pennsylvania, they say the Trump campaign has failed in the ground game operation in Pennsylvania, that the people who are showing up and voting are doing so because they are furious with the Democrats, and they're being motivated more by their anger than by a ground game. My sense is if the Republicans are doing as well as they are in Nevada and in Florida and in North Carolina, and even in my state of Georgia, my sense is that the GOP has reason to feel comfortable. That being said, a lot of people are going to vote on Election Day. And one of the great concerns Republicans have right now is that they've traded an Election Day wave for an early voting wave, but they're not getting new voters. See, if all of the Republicans who vote like they voted in 2020 vote this time, but they vote early, the Republicans still lose. I mean, I'm ignoring those of you who think it was stolen. I'm just saying on the data, on the numbers, Republicans still lose. If you think it was going to be stolen, maybe you shouldn't have picked a guy who couldn't keep it from being stolen when he was president. But if you just accept that Trump lost in 2020, if the same number of Republicans vote now as voted in 2020, he's going to lose again, even if they vote early. That's what's keeping Republicans up at night. They don't know, is there a new wave? Now, here's their hope. Just looking at Georgia now, 500,000 people who voted in early voting so far did not vote in 2020. Remember all the conversations we've had about low propensity voters? There's your low propensity voter. They didn't vote in 2020. They weren't around to vote. We don't know who they're voting for. I can't tell you who they're voting for. I can make a prediction in that some of these people who didn't vote in 2020, they're registered Republicans. But I don't know who they're voting for. It's true that women are outpacing men in the early vote right now. However, married women, the polling suggests, are leaning slightly towards Donald Trump right now. Yeah, did you know? We keep focusing on the women. The women, ladies and gentlemen, if they're married, are breaking Republican. As I've said all along, we can't make too much out of early voting because we don't know if Election Day vote and an early vote are the same. We don't know if people showing up today would have otherwise showed up on Election Day and it offsets it. We don't know if there's a new wave of people, but we have 50 million people have voted. As of 35 minutes ago, it's 50 million people have voted. 50.01 million people to be precise. In Georgia, they are close to 60% of the total turnout of 2020 voting early. That's remarkable. In California, 4 million people have voted early. That's actually remarkable. The trend lines seem to suggest that there is continued momentum for Donald Trump. But there's a week left, and he could still say something that alienates people. The Sunday rally could have an impact on the Hispanic vote. There are a lot of variables out there. I don't know. We got a week to find out how this plays out. Welcome back. It is Eric Erickson here across the United States. The phone number 877-973-7425. Be patient with me. If you're on the phones, I will get to your calls in the next segment. Right now, I need to, ask people to help me out. Because Republicans, some, are already complaining the Democrats are cheating. Because the Nevada Supreme Court ruled that if a ballot shows up 3 days after the election, it must be counted, even if the postmark is illegible. If it shows up in the mail and it has a illegible postmark, within 3 days of the election, it's got to be counted. And they're saying that's cheating. That's cheating. Here's the thing. That's the existing law in the state of Nevada. Republicans went to court and tried to get the Nevada Supreme Court to say that the current law in Nevada is unacceptable. And the Nevada Supreme Court said, no, it's the current law. Follow it. In the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, Mississippi has the same law that's been on the books. It was used in the 2016 and 2020, 2022 elections. And the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, which covers Texas, Louisiana, and Mississippi, said that you can't enforce that law. So, the Nevada Supreme Court said laws on the books need to be enforced, and the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals said laws on the books can't be enforced. Which one's cheating, please? Can someone illuminate me as to which one is cheating? Is it the enforcement of a pre-existing law in Nevada that you don't like, or is it the refusal to enforce existing law that was, by the way, enforced 2 years ago, but now the Fifth Circuit says no in Mississippi? Which one's the cheating one? I'm not sure. Is it the one that goes against my side? Is that how we're supposed to decide that that's cheating? Because that's not cheating. That's you roughing the refs. That's you whining about your team losing. It's a stupid argument to me. I think that no ballot should count after Election Day, but that's not the law in Mississippi or Nevada, and it's the pre-existing laws of the states. So Republicans, suck it up on this one. You lost in Nevada. Well, you shouldn't have to suck up the government at war with your spending money and snooping on you with cash. Swiss America's been warning about the secret war on cash for some time. They've been the trusted leader in precious metals for 40 years. If you're interested in safeguarding your hard-earned cash, reach out to them. Swiss America. They've got a secret war on cash report that exposes how the government is tracking your spending money, including your cryptocurrency. They're rated A+ by the Better Business Bureau, and they can educate you on protecting your assets. Their report takes less than 15 minutes to read. It can save on your retirement and finances. Get a free copy by calling or texting 800-289-2646. 800-289-2646. Again, digital currencies are wrapped up in the secret war on cash. Mention my name, Eric, E-R-I-C-K. When you call or text 800-289-2646, that's text the word Eric, E-R-I-C-K, to 800-289-2646. Message and data rates may apply at Swiss America. Hello, welcome. It is Eric Erickson here. I want to talk about the little things because it is the little things that matter in the last week of an election. You are probably, if you're listening to me right now, and I mean this lovingly, don't be insulted by this. Don't be insulted by this. Please, I don't mean it insultingly because it applies to me as well. If you're listening right now, you might not be normal. By that I mean normal people are working somewhere right now. They can't be listening to the radio. Normal people are not involved in politics. Normal people don't even really know who all their elected officials are. Normal people are not as engaged as you and me. Doesn't make them bad or us bad or them weird or us weird. It's just you got to remember that most Americans are not as attuned to the news and the happenings in politics as you and I are. And you got to understand that. And in that regard, there are people out there, and these are the not normal people on the other side. We're on one side, they're on the other side. And the not-normal people on the other side are the people who, a week before the election, they're still learning that there's something called an election next week, and they don't know who to vote for. And both sides right now are giving up on trying to get those people to the polls and instead focusing on their diehard supporters. But there's another group of people you got to understand. And it's not you, it's not me, but there's a group of people, maybe it is some of you, where you're thinking you want to vote for one side, and typically it's for Trump. And the other side is trying to give you every reason possible not to vote for Trump. Not even to vote for Harris, just don't vote for Trump. And it's the little things that are the persuasive cues to get people. And on the Democratic side, they're finding, for example, that the situation of the Middle East is one of the little things that is hurting Kamala Harris in a place like Michigan. Here are a conversation on CNN about Arab American voters.
Write-in or third party, I haven't made my decision, but it's one of those two.
Write-in or third party.
You just can't ask us to vote for genocide, and it's a terrible position to be in. I don't want to see Trump as president, but I cannot, in good conscience, give her my vote.
You can't expect us to be healthy, functioning members of this country while you utilize our tax dollars to destabilize our homelands and murder our family members.
It was CBS News, and that is Arab Americans in Michigan saying that they don't want Trump, but they can't bring themselves to vote for Harris. One more, the co-founder of Uncommitted was on CNN.
The Committed movement has made clear from the beginning that Trump is not right for our communities, not right for the anti-war movement in this country. He wants Netanyahu to quote unquote finish the job. It's clear to us that he's a purveyor of hate and white supremacy who's actively preying on the pain of Arab and Muslim American voters right now. And it's resonating not because he's particularly convincing, but because he's filling a void that's being left by Harris's absence on this issue, the absence of support for families like my own who have family in Lebanon right now, or who have family in Gaza or West Bank right now, who are on the receiving end of U.S. weapons that are being used illegally to harm and kill civilians. So while I agree with the senator, as a Democratic strategist and as someone who's in a swing state, who's voting for Harris against Trump, I'm still terrified by the vacuum that she's leaving. And so I'm urging fellow Democratic voters to pair their vote, their support for Vice President Harris with a public commitment to pressure her to stop sending the weapons should she become president.
It's the little things that matter. The Arab American vote in Michigan, coupled with the auto manufacturer and auto worker union vote in Michigan, could be enough to move Michigan to Trump. I'll tell you, I've talked to the most senior leadership in the Trump campaign, and they actually feel pretty good about what they're seeing in Michigan right now because of those two factors. They know that Trump is pro-Israel, but there's a real abstention vote on Kamala Harris's side from Arab Americans who want the Democratic Party to be more anti-Israel. Where does this stack up now? Here's ABC with its latest polling.
The 7 states that are almost certainly going to determine the presidency, things close as ever, and we're seeing a very slight Trump edge in several of the battleground states. Kamala Harris's numbers have gone down just a little bit.
So in Michigan, ABC News has Harris up by 0.5 of a point. They're tied in Wisconsin. Trump's up 0.2 of a point in Nevada. He's up 0.3 of a point in Pennsylvania, 1.3 in North Carolina, 1.6 in Georgia, 1.9 in Arizona. Think about that. There has been a noticeable shift towards Donald Trump in a lot of the public polling. Democrats are struggling to argue that in their private polling, they're seeing a shift back. The TIP poll has come out. It is Harris up 1. It's among 1,291 likely voters. It has the race 48-47. The problem is that last month it came out and it was 47-43 Harris. So it went from Harris up 4 to Harris up 1. And that is the problem. As I mentioned, the CBS poll went from Harris up 3 to Harris up 1. The Emerson College poll went from Harris up 1 to Harris up 1. The New York Times poll went from Harris up 3 to a tie. There has been this momentum shift. But also, it's the little things on Trump's side, too. You've got the Arab American vote on the Harris side. You've got the statements about there's no difference between her and Joe Biden in terms of the policy she would bring. On the Trump side, it is Tony Hinchcliffe and his remarks on Puerto Ricans and black people. It is Donald Trump himself and some of his own statements that the media is playing up. And let's be clear here, the media is overplaying Trump statements and downplaying Harris statements in a way to amplify some exaggerated claims about Donald Trump. Trump today had a press conference at Mar-a-Lago. With him was another mother whose child was the victim of an illegal alien. And Donald Trump is making a big deal out of this issue at the end, as he should.
So today, I'm announcing that for the first time under my administration, we will be seizing the assets of the criminal gangs and drug cartels. And we will use those assets to create a compensation fund to provide restitution for the victims of migrant crime, and the government will help in the restoration.
Here's one more. Donald Trump at his press conference.
After 2 assassination attempts in just over 3 months, her lies and her slanders are very shameful and really inexcusable. And I can say that if I were president and somebody was being threatened, openly threatened like they've threatened me, I would say, if you do that, even if this was an opponent who I disliked, if you do that, we will obliterate your entire country, and it would all stop. But they wouldn't make that statement.
That's Trump on, one of the would-be assassins was coordinating with Iran. That's right. Did you know that? Yes. One of the would-be assassins coordinated with Iran. It's all of these little things that add up in the last week, because you may not be in this category of people, but there are people that are going to go vote. They're just, they're hesitant, they're wavering, they're not sure they can pull the trigger. They're just not sure. They know intellectually, they know from their lived experience that the Trump economy was better than the present economy. Their life was better, the world was more stable, but they're like, the drama, the mean tweets. Yeah, you may not care about the mean tweets, but I assure you it shows up in polling. There are people who do. And then there's the same with the Harris. There are some people who are leaning towards Kamala Harris. They don't like Donald Trump. They're like, but she says she's going to be no different. They don't like the trans issue. And so both sides this week are playing up the little things. Over the weekend in Chicago, an Orthodox Jew was shot by an illegal immigrant who screamed Allahu Akbar. We don't know how the illegal immigrant got the gun, but it's Chicago. He came into the country just over a year ago as an illegal alien, crossed the southern border into this country. Another American, a victim of violence, of illegal aliens. And this is where, and again, I'm trying not to be off, because it's such a tight race. I'm already frustrated with the people screaming about, they're cheating, they're stealing. The only way she can win is if she steals it. No, you don't appreciate that it's a tight race. If you really believe the only way Kamala Harris can win is if she steals it, you are a stupid person. You are an extremely stupid, clueless person in a bubble of your own making, just like members of the media you hate. There's no difference between you and them. It is a tied race. She can win. If women turn out just a couple percentage points more than what they turned out in 2020, she'll win all 7 swing states. But here's why still I just think Trump has this edge. Because 100% of Americans are 100% in their opinion of him, one way or the other. And every external event works in his favor. You have increased instability in the Middle East. It works in Trump's favor. You have another person, a victim of illegal alien crime in this country. It works in his favor. You have the stock market drop. It works in his favor. Contrary, a stock market surge, and yesterday the Dow went up almost 300 points. Doesn't help Kamala Harris. But it might alleviate some of the anxiety about Trump. All the external events are trending in Trump's favor right now. You can't make too much of the early voting as well, though. But when I see Kamala Harris, by the way, a source in the Trump campaign tells me she's pulled her money out of North Carolina and she's boosting it in parts of Virginia. They believe it's actually targeted towards the Pennsylvania market. That's not a good sign. It's not a good sign for Harris. She can absolutely win the race. It is a tied race. The Democrats have a better ground game. The Democrats have a larger core of paid operatives getting people to the polls. The Democrats have a better ballot collection apparatus. The Democrats are better at collecting ballots. The Democrats are better at ballot harvesting, even in states where it's against the law. They still do it and get away with it. The Democratic ground game is so much superior in a tied race, Kamala Harris could win. But momentum has a way of becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy, and I don't think even the Democrats deny the momentums with Trump, and that matters greatly at the end. This is a tied race, ladies and gentlemen. It is that close. If you don't go vote, your side that you want to win could very well lose because you didn't go vote. Now, I want you to go to EdenPureDeals.com and vote for the Eden Pure Thunderstorm. Get 3 of them. Save $200. Get them for less than $200. EdenPureDeals.com. It's an air purifier and also an odor eliminator. It generates ozone and locks onto the ions that are odor particles that get in your nose and trigger this is a bad smell, and they neutralize those ions. The ozone locks onto the ion particles and wipes them out. And so it really works as an odor eliminator. If you got a room piled with dirty diapers, you got one of those never-ending garbage bag things that we used to have where you throw in and then it twists and throw in another one and it twists. You have this big, long snake of dirty diapers, but they still smell a little bit. The Eden Pure Thunderstorm takes care of those. Wet dog odors, litter box odors, frying odors, musty odors. You get 3 of them upstairs, downstairs, your basement, your travel bag, your RV, wherever you need them. You can plug it into a USB cord. You can plug it into the wall. It wipes out those odors. You get 3 of them and you save $200. EdenPureDeals.com. EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code ERIC3, ERICK3 at EdenPureDeals.com. This hour of the program brought to you by First Liberty Building and Loan. You're in the business of business. You need access to capital. Your bank giving you the runaround? Well, reach out to First Liberty Building and Loan. They might be able to help you. If you got great credit, they can move fast and they make their own decisions. FirstLibertyGA.com. Pierce has been waiting patiently. Pierce, welcome to the Eric Erickson Show.
Hey, thank you for taking my call, Eric.
Sure.
Hey, I was reading last week, I read an article on Fox News Business that Putin has invited the world to an economic summit to discuss the BRICS monetary system.
Mm-hmm.
And 36 countries say they want to participate. 24 of those say they will attend his summit in Moscow. And they, from what I read in that article, it says it is going to be their 2 goals is to number one, create a monetary system that sanctions by the U.S. will not hurt countries.
Mm-hmm.
And the second thing is that they want to try to reconfigure the IMF and the World Bank.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I'm thinking, well, of course, you've talked about it. If the American dollar is not the international trade currency, it's going to affect us economically.
Yeah.
Drastically. Along with our national debt, I mean, we teeter on if that happens, that's almost like to me, that's like an attack against our nation
mm-hmm.
to bring it down.
Yeah,
and I
look.
was wondering what you were thinking.
So here's my concern. And for those of you who don't understand the term Pierce used, BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. Those countries are trying to get the world off the American dollar as the reserve currency. We right now are on the verge of economic calamity in this country because of our debt to GDP ratio. However, because the entire world trades in dollars, it's cheaper for us to engage in global market business than any other country on the planet. If other countries, however, give up using the dollar as a reserve currency, it drives up our trade costs because we have to go through an exchange rate when we do trade that we currently do not have to do. So Russia and China have figured out they've got to destabilize the American dollar in order to really destabilize the United States, and they're working very hard to do that. And they've got 30, 40 countries out there right now out of 198 that are with them on doing this. And likewise, because the International Monetary Fund uses dollars for transactions, when Americans impose sanctions on other countries, it's harder for those countries to get global aid relief and assistance from the International Monetary Fund because the transaction can't occur since it's got to be converted to dollars, and it can't be converted to dollars, so the IMF can't give out the money. So they want to use essentially votes of all these countries to force the IMF to change its business operations so that they're no longer impacted by currency exchanges. And concurrent to all of that, they want the United States reserve currency to go away in the world. This would be an economic problem for the United States, and it's part of what comes with leading. You know, there are a lot of people who cast aspersions on the idea of American empire. I'm actually totally fine with American empire because if we're not going to lead the world, someone else is, and I would rather us lead it because we get better rates, we get better transactions. The world works to our advantage in ways it will not work to our advantage if someone else is in charge. So we've got to step back up and we've got to push back on this stuff, frankly. Absolutely needs to be pushed back on. All right, when we come back, Jeff Bezos has released an op-ed in his own newspaper, The Washington Post, saying essentially what you and I all know, the media is super biased. And on the same day, CNN played exactly into his hands. I've got it all when we come back.